In 1971, a man in a suit and sunglasses bought a plane ticket under the name Dan Cooper. He boarded Northwest Orient Flight 305 from Portland to Seattle. 20 minutes into the flight, he handed a note to a flight attendant. She thought it was his phone number and put it in her pocket without reading it. He leaned over and told her to read it. The note said he had a bomb. She read it and looked at him in shock. He opened his briefcase and showed her red cylinders, wires, and a battery. He told her his demands: $200,000 in $20 bills and 4 parachutes. If they didn't comply, he'd blow up the plane, the flight attendant told the captain. The captain radioed authorities. Cooper was calm the entire time. He ordered a bourbon and soda and paid for it. He wasn't violent or aggressive. He just sat there drinking, while the plane circled Seattle, waiting for his demands to be met. The FBI scrambled. They gathered the money in parachutes. When the plane landed in Seattle, Cooper allowed all 36 passengers to leave. He kept the crew. The FBI delivered the money in parachutes. Cooper checked the money, then ordered the plane to take off again and fly to Mexico City. He told the crew to fly with the landing gear down, flaps at 15 degrees, and at the slowest possible speed without stalling. This would keep the plane under 10,000 feet. He also told them to depressurize the cabin. The crew thought this was strange, but did what he said. Once they were in the air, Cooper told the crew to go into the cockpit and close the door. He was alone in the cabin with $200,000 and 4 parachutes. Somewhere over the wilderness of Washington State, Cooper opened the rear stairs of the plane. The crew felt a pressure change and knew he'd opened the door. A warning light came on in the cockpit, indicating the rear stairs were down. Cooper tied the money to his body, put on a parachute, and jumped out of the plane into a freezing rainstorm at night. He vanished into the darkness. The crew had no idea exactly where he jumped. They landed in Reno and reported what happened. The FBI launched one of the most extensive manhunts in American history. They searched thousands of square miles of forest. They interviewed hundreds of suspects. They found nothing. No parachute, no body, no evidence. It was like he disappeared into thin air. The case became a national obsession. Who was Dan Cooper? How did he survive? Did he even survive? In 1980, a young boy was playing on the banks of the Columbia River and found 3 packets of $20 bills buried in the sand. The serial numbers matched the ransom money. It was $5,800 of Cooper's cash. But that was it. No other money was ever found. No body was ever recovered. The FBI investigated over 1,000 suspects. They ruled them all out. Some died. Some had alibis. None fit the profile perfectly. The case went cold. Decades passed. People became obsessed with solving it. Amateur sleuths spent their lives trying to figure out who Cooper was. Some thought he was an experienced skydiver who planned everything perfectly. Others thought he died on impact and his body was never found, jumping out of a plane at night in a rainstorm. With 0 visibility over dense forest is basically a death sentence. He was wearing a business suit and loafers, not exactly skydiving gear. The parachute he took was a training chute, not meant for actual jumps. Experts said his chances of survival were almost 0, but no body was ever found, and only a tiny fraction of the money showed up. Where did the rest go? In 2016, the FBI officially closed the case. They said they'd exhausted all leads and it was unlikely to be solved. But they didn't say he was dead. They just said they were done looking. To this day, D.B. Cooper is the only unsolved hijacking in American aviation history. He became a folk hero. People made movies about him. Songs were written. He's a legend. Some people think he was a genius who pulled off the perfect crime. Others think he's dead at the bottom of a forest and just got lucky that nobody found him. The mystery will probably never be solved. Cooper, if he survived, would be in his 90s now. He's likely dead either way. But the question remains, did he make it out alive? Did he live the rest of his life as a free man with $200,000? Or did he die the second he jumped out of that plane? Nobody knows. And that's what makes it one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in American history. Now let me tell you about the man who survived falling 33,000 feet without a parachute. In 1972, a Yugoslav Airlines flight was cruising at 33,000 feet over Czechoslovakia. Vesna Vulović was a flight attendant working that day. She wasn't even supposed to be on that flight. She'd been mixed up with another flight attendant with a similar name. But she took the shift anyway. 26 minutes into the flight, a bomb exploded in the cargo hold. The plane ripped apart in midair. Everyone and everything was ejected into the sky. Vesna fell 33,000 feet, still strapped to a piece of the fuselage. She was unconscious the entire fall. Her section of the plane hit a snow-covered mountain at an angle. The snow and trees absorbed just enough impact to keep her alive. A villager found her in the wreckage. She had a fractured skull, broken legs, broken ribs, and 3 broken vertebrae. She was in a coma for days. When she woke up, she was paralyzed from the waist down. Doctors told her she'd never walk again. They said her survival was medically impossible. The combination of being pinned in her seat, falling with a piece of the aircraft that slowed her descent slightly, and landing in deep snow on a slope instead of flat ground saved her life. The odds were calculated at less than 1 in a billion. But Vesna didn't just survive. She recovered. Against all medical predictions, she regained the ability to walk. It took months of physical therapy, but she did it. And then, even more incredibly, she went back to work for the same airline. She worked in administrative roles, but stayed with Yugoslav Airlines for years. She never blamed the airline. She never developed a fear of flying. She just went back to work like nothing happened. She held the Guinness World Record for surviving the highest fall without a parachute. No one has ever survived a higher fall and lived to tell about it. Vesna became a national hero in Yugoslavia. She did interviews. She was on television, but she didn't like the attention. She just wanted to live a normal life. Investigators determined the bomb was planted by Croatian nationalists as part of a terror campaign. 6 crew members and 22 passengers died. Vesna was the sole survivor. She lived until 2016. She died at age 66 from natural causes. She survived a fall that should have killed her instantly, recovered from injuries that should have left her paralyzed, and lived a full life for another 44 years. Her story is one of the most remarkable survival stories in aviation history. It defies logic. It defies physics. But it happened. Vesna Vulović fell 6 miles from the sky and lived to tell the tale. Now, let me tell you about the town that was held hostage by bees. In 2017, a truck carrying 20 million bees overturned on a highway in Pasadena, California. The bees escaped. All 20 million of them. They formed a massive cloud that covered multiple city blocks. It looked like something out of a horror movie. A living, buzzing black cloud slowly spreading through a residential neighborhood. Emergency services were called immediately. Firefighters showed up in full protective gear. They tried spraying the bees with foam to calm them down. It didn't work. The bees were extremely aggressive because they were protecting their queen and their hive. Beekeepers from across Southern California were called in to help. They brought equipment to try to recapture the swarms, but there were too many. The bees were everywhere, on cars, on houses, in trees, in the air. Residents were told to stay inside with windows and doors closed. The entire area was shut down for over 6 hours. Several people were stung hundreds of times. One man described it as being attacked by a living tornado. He ran inside his house, but bees followed him in. He locked himself in the bathroom and stuffed towels under the door. Animal control, firefighters, and professional beekeepers worked together for hours trying to contain the situation. They eventually recaptured about 80% of the bees, but millions of bees just disappeared into the city. They flew away and nested somewhere in Pasadena. To this day, nobody knows exactly where they went. Experts believe they formed super colonies in attics, walls, and trees throughout the area. Residents reported finding massive hives in strange places for months afterward. One family found 50,000 bees living inside their walls. Another found a hive the size of a refrigerator in their attic. The bee population in Pasadena exploded after the incident. The truck driver was transporting the bees from a pollination job in almond orchards back to their home base. He swerved to avoid another car and the truck tipped over. The crates broke open and the bees escaped. He wasn't injured, but he was traumatized. Beekeepers said it was one of the worst bee incidents in California history. 20 million bees loose in a major city is unprecedented. The scary part is bees can be extremely dangerous in large numbers. They don't stop stinging like a single bee does. A swarm can kill. Luckily, nobody died, but several people were hospitalized. Pasadena residents still talk about the day the bees took over their city. Some people refuse to go outside during certain times of year because the bee population is still unusually high. The incident led to stricter regulations on transporting. large quantities of bees through populated areas. But it was too late for Pasadena. The bees had already made it their new home. Let me tell you about the girl who was kidnapped and kept in a box for 7 years. In 1977, 20-year-old Colleen Stan was hitchhiking from Oregon to Northern California to visit a friend. A man named Cameron Hooker picked her up with his wife and baby in the car. Colleen thought it was safe because there was a woman and child. 20 minutes into the drive, Cameron pulled a knife and forced a homemade wooden box over Colleen's head. He tied her up and told her if she screamed, he'd kill her. He drove her to his house and locked her in a coffin-sized box under his waterbed. She was kept in that box for 23 hours a day. He let her out for 1 hour to use the bathroom and eat. This went on for years. Cameron told Colleen he was part of a powerful organization called the company that would hunt her down and kill her family if she tried to escape. He made her sign a slavery contract. He tortured her regularly. He hung her from the ceiling. He whipped her. He put her in stress positions for hours. He did unspeakable things. His wife Janice knew everything but did nothing. She was terrified of Cameron and believed he'd kill her too. Colleen was brainwashed into believing the company was real. She was so terrified she didn't try to escape, even when given opportunities. After a few years, Cameron let her out of the box more often. He let her jog outside. He even let her visit her family. But she was too scared to tell them what was happening. She thought the company was watching and would kill them. She returned to Cameron every time. 7 years passed. Finally, Janice couldn't take it anymore. She told Colleen the truth. The company didn't exist. It was all a lie. Cameron made it up to control her. Colleen couldn't believe it. 7 years of torture based on a complete fabrication. Janice helped Colleen escape and went to the police. Cameron Hooker was arrested in 1984. He was charged with kidnapping, sexual assault, and torture. Janice testified against him in exchange for immunity. The trial was shocking. Details of what Cameron did were so disturbing that people in the courtroom cried. He was sentenced to 104 years in prison. Colleen Stan had to rebuild her entire life. She suffered severe PTSD, but she survived. She wrote a book. She gave interviews. She wanted people to know what happened so it wouldn't happen to others. Cameron Hooker is still in prison. He's been denied parole multiple times. Colleen Stan's case became one of the most famous kidnapping cases in American history. It showed how psychological manipulation can be just as powerful as physical restraints. She could have run, but she didn't, because she believed a lie. Subscribe for more insane true stories that will keep you up at night.